Hey mathematicians, all right, in this lesson we're going to be dividing fractions by finding the least common denominator. Now the way that we do that in this situation, 1/2 divided by 1/5, or how many groups of 1/5 fit into 1/2, what we're going to do is we're going to use the denominators in order to find the least common denominator. The way that we do that is we compare 2 and 5, and what we find is the least common multiple of 2 and 5. And we're going to be working on that here right now. So what I do to find the least common multiple, which will give us the least common denominator, is I'm going to use the strategy of making a list. And so I'm going to make a list for 2 multiples of 2 and multiples of 5. So 2, 4, 6. And I'm going to stop at 12. And then I'm going to do a list of multiples for 5. And now you can see that I've already passed my least common multiple, which is 10. So 10 is the least common multiple of 2 and 5. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to use this information of least common multiple of 10 to create equivalent fractions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename 1/2, but I'm going to have 10 as the denominator. And I'm going to rename 1/5, and it also will have 10 in the denominator. And what this will do is give us the least common denominator. Now I'm going to show what this looks like using a model. So I'll start with 1/2. So you can see in my model I have 1/2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the way this model looks so that it has 10 pieces. So 10 equal-sized pieces. And I can do this by slicing it up the other direction. And now what you can see is there are 10 pieces in the whole amount, and 5 of them are shaded. So 1/2 is equivalent to 5/10. Now let's do the same thing for 1/5. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to model 1/5. Cool. And I'm going to go ahead and shade in my 1/5. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this model up the other direction in half. Now I have 10 pieces, and what I can see is that 1/5 is equivalent to 2/10. All right, the last thing that we're going to do now is use this information of equivalent fractions to rewrite our original equation. So instead of having 1/2 divided by 1/5, we're going to have 5/10 divided by 2/10. Now this is going to allow us to model this equation of 1/2 divided by 1/5 with only one model. Watch, this is really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start dividing up my model into tenths. And look what happens. I made a mistake here. Let me go ahead and erase a little bit. Not always great at guesstimating the tenths. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with 5/10 because I have 5/10 and I want to know how many groups of 2/10 fit in here. So there's 5/10. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make groups of 2/10. So you can see this is one group of 2/10. Here's another group of 2/10. Here would be a third group of 2/10, but I don't actually have all that I need. What I have is 1 out of 2 pieces. So 1/2 divided by 1/5 is 2 and 1/2. All right. Let's go ahead and let's try another one, 1/3 divided by 1/5. Now in this model, in this example, I'm not going to actually show you how to find the least common multiple or find the equivalent fractions with a model. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So I know that the least common multiple of 3 and 5 is 15. If I were to make a list of multiples of 3 and a list of multiples of 5, 15 would be the least common multiple. Now again, if I were to make a model of 1/3 and split it into 15 pieces, I would have 5. And if I were to make a model of 1/5 and split it into 15 equal-sized pieces, I would have 3 shaded in. So now what I can do is I can rewrite the equation. 5/15 divided by 3/15. And what I can do is I can make a model here of 15ths, and I'm going to try something a little different. I want to see if you understand what I'm doing here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a 5 by 3 array. So here's a 5 by 3 array. And what I want you to recognize is that there's 15 pieces in here. And I'm going to shade in 5 of them because I have 5/15. And now the question's asking, how many groups of 3/15ths can I make out of here? Well, look, this is a group of 3/15ths. That's one. This would be another group of 3/15ths, but as you can see, I don't actually have all that I need. I only have 2 out of 3. So 1/3 divided by 1/5 is 1 2/3. All right, let's go and do another example. 3/4 divided by 2/3. I'm going to go ahead and find the least common multiple of the denominators, 4 and 3. The least common denominator is 12. If I were to make equivalent fractions, 3/4 is going to equal 9/12, and 2/3 is going to equal 8/12. Now I can rewrite my equation with the new equivalent fractions that have the least common denominator of 12. And I'm going to have 9/12 divided by 8/12. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make just one model here. And as you can see, I'm splitting it into 12 equal-sized pieces, or close to 12 equal-sized pieces. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with 9/12. And then what I'm going to be finding is how many groups of 8/12 can I get out of 9/12? Well, I can see that this is one group of 8/12. That's one whole group. And then I've got this one piece here. Now, in the model, it might look like it's 1 out of 4, but actually, we need to remember that it takes 8 pieces to make a group of 8/12. So really what I have is only 1 out of 8. So I would actually need to create a whole nother model in order to find another 8, to get 8 total pieces. But because I don't have all of that in my picture here, I just know that there's one piece and it takes 8 to make a group of 8/12. So it's 1 1/8. All right. We're going to try one last problem today, and this one involves a mixed number. Now, anytime we've divided fractions before with mixed numbers, we've converted or changed that mixed number into an improper fraction. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just that. I'm going to have 7/4. So really what I've already have here is 7/4 divided by 1/3. Now, at this point, it's just like all the rest of the problems. The only extra step I had to do was convert the mixed number into an improper fraction. The least common multiple is 12. 7/4 equals 21/12. 1/3 equals 4/12. And so now I can rewrite the equation. 21/12 divided by 4/12. How many groups of 4/12 fit into 21/12? Now I want to show you what this looks like in a model, because what I'm going to have here is actually 2 whole amounts. So I'll go ahead and I'll divide this up into 12s. And what I start with is 21/12. So I'm going to go ahead and in red here, I'm going to just shade in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I need more. I need more than just 12. So I've got to make a whole nother group, a whole nother whole amount of 12. And so you can see how I'm doing that here. I'm going to just divide this up into 12s. Cool. And I had 12 so far, so here's 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Cool. So I have 21/12s, and I'm going to make groups of 4/12s. So you can see this is one group of 4/12s. This is one group of 4/12s. Here's another one. And I'm going to move on out of the second model. That makes 4. There we go. And finally, I've got 1 out of 4. So 1 3/4 divided by 1/3, or how many groups of 1/3 fit into 1 3/4, is 5 1/4. All right, so in this lesson, we learned to divide fractions by finding the least common denominator.